Hey, so this is the grave of Saturday Night Live alum Jan Hooks, who I visited earlier this week. This is the fourth grave I've visited of a Saturday Night Live player, an SNL player. I've also been to Chris Farley's grave, John Belushi, and Gilda Radner twice. But today we're talking about Jan. So we'll recap a little bit about her life and take a look at the video that I took at her grave and in the cemetery that surrounds it. The video includes a kind of unique experience that surrounds an offering of wine. The experience may be supernatural or it may be coincidental. Either way, stick around as I visit the grave of Janet Vivian Hooks. Janet Vivian Hooks was born April 23rd, 1957. She was a Taurus. She was best known as a cast member on Saturday Night Live from seasons 12 through 16. That's 1986 to 1991, or about 5 years. And I gotta say, she gave one of the more jarring SNL opening credits performances I've seen. Right here, getting in a car real fast, like someone's coming after her. To be fair, that seemed to be the theme of the credits that season, I guess. Everybody looks like they're running scared for some reason. But hers was the first one that made me actually take notice. It just seems so real. Before that, she was in the Groundlings comedy troupe and also an Atlanta, Georgia-based troupe called the Wits End Players. And the Wits End Players were initially started by a guy named Phil Erickson and, get this, Dick Van Dyke. And they originally started it under the name The Merry Mutes, whatever that means. Also, early in the 80s, Jan was on HBO's Not Necessarily the News and also played the Alamo tour guide in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, if you remember that. On SNL, she was a pretty strong every woman, kind of a utility player. Her most popular original character was Candy Sweeney, who she played opposite Nora Dunn as the Sweeney sisters. I guess Nora's name was Liz Sweeney. They were a kind of fun lounge act type of deal that was always very light, very cute.
Clang, clang, clang with the trolley.
I always liked them because it's a very pure feminine energy. You could really feel the bond between she and Nora Dunn when they're in these roles. There is a really in-depth Grantland article about Jan where Nora Dunn is quoted as saying, of the Sweeney sisters, "In character, Jan and I know exactly who we were without discussion. It happened on its own. As Liz and Candy, we shared an uncomplicated bond and an enduring sisterly love. The fact that they became a hit was secondary to the joy of being them." I love that so much. I love the Sweeney sisters so much. I wish I was one. Jan was also on the last 2 seasons of Designing Women as Carlene Dobler and did a lot of guest appearances and cameos on all sorts of stuff, from The Simpsons to Third Rock from the Sun to 30 Rock to Batman Returns. That's an interesting one. But apparently, she was not very career-oriented. Excellent as a performer, sturdy as a performer. I always thought she was a distinct presence on any screen, a distinct force on any screen, one that really draws people in. I feel like people really liked Jan Hooks, and she was great at what she did. But it seems she just didn't really go for the work. I guess I can't blame her for that. But a friend of hers told Grantland, for that article that I was talking about, that she only wanted to work as much was required to keep her Screen Actors Guild health insurance. So she was known for being pretty passive, which is kind of a Taurus thing if you think about it. They are the eaters and the nappers of the zodiac. So she was not only to some degree indifferent to her career, but it also seems that she was to some degree indifferent to death. I don't know what she was specifically thinking inside, but she declined a laryngectomy, and she apparently drank wine and smoked Merit cigarettes to the end. The doctor told her to stop drinking. She did not. And obviously, she was just kind of taking everything as it comes, you know? But the throat cancer did go on to get her on December 9th, 2014, when she died at the age of 57. Jan's vessel is now here, Northview Cemetery in Cedartown, Georgia. It's a little over an hour northwest of Atlanta. The coordinates to her grave are here, if you would like them. Latitude 34.014354 and longitude negative 85.224989. Grave coordinates. What is this world? According to that Grantland article, Jan's drink of choice was Robert Mondavi Sauvignon Blanc, which she called Bobby Mo. Fun fact, she also had an albino horse with this name, Bobby Mo. So, I thought this would be an appropriate wine to bring along as an offering for Miss Hooks at her grave. However, I could not find Robert Mondavi Sauvignon Blanc, so I picked up the Woodbridge Sauvignon Blanc, since Woodbridge is a company founded by Robert Mondavi. So, it's Bobby Mo nonetheless, and a Sauvignon Blanc as well. Hopefully this works. Hopefully this is not an offense when the offering is made. So I didn't find her grave immediately. I walked out to the area it was supposed to be in, but I looked around and I couldn't see it anywhere. It's kind of distinct from the others. It's a darker color, though there are a few like that, but not very many. Most are a lighter gray. So I stood there, and I was about to pull up my map again when I noticed that the grave right beside me to my left had an overturned stone chalice sitting on its base. So I thought to myself that I should probably pick that up and turn it upright, just to be a good Samaritan or whatever, to make it aesthetically correct. But when I came around to the front of the grave, I had been standing beside Jan's marker all along. It was right there. So now it is right here. Here it is, even though we already saw it. Jan gave us all the gift of laughter, it says, and I cannot disagree. But I do hope she finds it funny, then, when I say the font on her tombstone looks like some Windows Design 98 shit. Like, what is that font? It's not quite Helvetica. Is it Arial? I don't know. I don't want that font on my grave. Mark my words. I do not want that font on my grave. Please stay away from Arial and Helvetica on my tombstone. Thank you. Anyway, she is buried next to her mother, Sarah Margaret Brandon Hooks, who died September 2nd, 1986, which means Jan would have been around 29 years old at that time, which that's a bummer. I mean, that was probably very hard, especially at that age. The cemetery itself, it's all right, but it would be better if it weren't overlooking these junky orange storage buildings or whatever these are. Anyway, I set the cup back up, and it seemed like a given that I was supposed to pour the Bobby Mo into the cup for her. Like I said in the intro, it could be supernatural or it could be coincidence. It could be nothing. But in that moment, it seemed very clear to me that the cup was empty so the wine could go inside. But In front of her stone were a couple flower arrangements, like laying in the grass, which I guess were in the cup before it turned over. Thankfully, upon closer inspection, they both turned out to be plastic, so I could fill Jan's cup with wine and put the flowers back in without any issue. So that's what I did. I presented the wine and said a few words, private words that I figure would be kind of tacky and performative to put on display here. And then I filled her cup. I poured it pretty much full of Robert Mondavi's Woodbridge line of Sauvignon Blanc, who I do not have a sponsorship from, and I hate saying brands, but I feel it's warranted in this case. Then I put her flowers back in there too. Also, I did want to have a drink with her, just to kind of merge souls into the moment in case that's actually a thing that happens. So I poured a little bit into a plastic cup for myself and then took it down. Then I poured a bunch out in the grass, just for full coverage, pouring one out for my homie Jan. And at that point, it was snowing and I was sitting in wet grass. So I said goodbye and I headed on down to Atlanta. This visit was a good experience as usual. It is kind of strange that I had not visited her grave in the past since it is somewhat close to where I live. Certainly closer than any other Saturday Night Live cast member who I've visited before. But now I have visited her, and I know where her grave is, and I can visit her again and hopefully give her a refill. And if you would like to have a drink with Jan yourself, once again, the coordinates are right here. And it is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Atlanta, which has a lot of other graves, by the way. I'm sure we'll visit several of those in the future, as well as other non-deceased activities in Atlanta. You could make a day or a weekend of it. But for now, what you really should do is like and subscribe. Okay, bye, thanks.